regarding Luigi Mangione. And Israel is quitting the ceasefire deal and announcing a new blockade and siege of Gaza, obvious collective punishment and war crime, with the full backing of the United States government. Jeremy Scahill is going to join us to break all of that down.
Yeah, excited to have Jeremy here.
Yeah, he's incredible. And Dropsite, I said this last week. It is incredible how quickly they became essential.
Seriously.
You know, I really rely on them for their foreign affairs reporting in particular, specifically with regard to Israel and Gaza. But they have done such an incredible job standing that outlet up.
And of course, neither of us is surprised because we know Ryan.
We know Ryan, yes.
They're so talented.
Exactly right. All right, so let's get into the latest with regard to Ukraine. I'm sure you guys have all seen at this point the dust-up in the Oval Office between J.D. Vance and Trump attacking Vladimir Zelensky, of course, the president of Ukraine. Let's go ahead and take a listen to, we had a bunch of politicians on the Sunday show, from Marco Rubio to Senator Chris Murphy, who were reacting to this chain of events. Let's go ahead and listen to that.
Heard from President Zelensky. He said he does not think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today. Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see, you guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine, which to me, as I've explained, and I think the president alluded to today, is a security guarantee in its own way, because we're involved. It's now us. It's our interests. That was all explained. That was all understood. And nonetheless, for the last 10 days, in every engagement we've had with the Ukrainians, there's been complications in getting that point across, including the public statements that President Zelensky has made. But they insisted on coming to D.C. This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington. And there was and should have been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create a such scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work. President Zelensky took it in that direction, and it ended in a predictable outcome as a result. It's unfortunate. That wasn't supposed to be this way, but that's the path he chose. And I think, frankly, sends his country backwards in regards to achieving peace, which is what President Trump wants at the end of the day, is for this war to end.
The person who walked away from the table yesterday was President Zelensky. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of bilateral meetings like this with heads of state and dignitaries. There's a certain protocol to these events, but for him to act as he did was rather shocking to everyone. I mean, President Zelensky, instead of showing gratitude, he interrupted and berated his hosts at a very perilous time for his country. He should have been anxious, I think, to enter into this agreement. Think of it. The Mineral Rights Agreement would be a win-win for both countries. It would give us an economic interest there, and everyone around the world knows that America will always defend our interest and our people.
The challenge is now we're at a stalemate. This is a World War I-like trench warfare, and it is best to be able to get to at least a pause. And what I hear President Trump saying over and over again is we need to get to a stop in fighting, find some resolution. I understand Zelensky is rightfully concerned that Putin has violated every single agreement he's ever signed and that he can't be trusted. He's looking for some kind of security guarantees, which the French and the UK are saying they want to put troops in. But we need to get these two folks at the table, get to some kind of resolution to something that may look like North and South Korea for a long time, and have a line where people are looking at each other, but not an active war.
Now, the White House has become an arm of the Kremlin. Every single day, you hear from the National Security Advisor, from the President of the United States, from his entire national security team, Kremlin talking points. For the last week, the White House has been pretending as if Ukraine started this war. That's essentially saying that Poland invaded Germany at the beginning of World War II. There are still facts in this world. And the fact is this: Vladimir Putin is a brutal dictator. Russia started this war. And the entire pretext for that meeting yesterday was an attempt to rewrite history in order to sign a deal with Putin that hands Putin Ukraine. That is disastrous for U.S. national security. That means that China will be on the march. Putin may not stop America may be at war with a nuclear power.
So there you go, a little sampling of the political reaction. Obviously I have a lot of thoughts on this, which I'll go ahead and offer a few of them since we haven't had a chance to react yet. I mean, it won't surprise you that none of the Democrat or Republican views there really represent my view. I do actually think that this was a sort of a planned ambush of Zelensky. Because I think it's preposterous to imagine that J.D. Vance would be out there freelancing on his own. Like, I don't think he does anything without Donald Trump giving him the nudge and the go-ahead. But whether or not you think this was like a planned ambush, it was definitely a show in that it is not reflective of the reality, which is that Ukraine and U.S. in this war have basically been the same entity, right? The U.S. has pushed Ukraine to continue this war. We have used Ukraine prior to this war as our own geopolitical plaything. So that's why when Vance and Trump are insisting, oh, you have to thank us and you need to apologize. Like, thank us for what? For continuing to drag you through years of this war at massive cost of lives and death and destruction in the country of Ukraine. And this is not to let Zelensky off the hook, who no one should be, hero worshiping this guy. Like, actually, the things that J.D. Vance said about the conscription and pulling guys off, that is true. But we're the superpower in this situation. We wanted to use Ukraine to push back against Russia, and we failed. And now we are left trying to figure out what to do next and trying to pick up the pieces. What the Trump administration wants to do is basically economic colonization. They want this extractive mineral rights deal, which, by the way, doesn't mean that you are going to benefit from whatever extraction is occurring here. It's Trump's billionaire buddies who would get these deals, who would profit from exploiting this vassal state and effective colony of the United States of America. But it would be U.S. lives that would be on the line to defend those economic interests. That's the deal that they're trying to put in place. And by the way, Emily, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, this was a big blow up, and I don't want to say that, like, it's not going to have an impact. It might. But it's also very possible it doesn't at all, that they continue to go forward with this economic colonization deal for Trump and his buddies to cash in. Because as we're going to talk to you about the, crypto reserve bullshit, the core ideological project of the Trump administration at this point just seems to be theft. Elon stealing contracts and just plundering the government at will, going around the world saying, we want Greenland's minerals, we want the Panama Canal back, we want Canada, we want Gaza, we want the Ukrainian minerals deal. The crypto, that thing is just insane, just funneling taxpayer dollars in so that a bunch of crypto billionaires can sell their bag and dump this trash, worthless thing on the American public. That is the core ethos of the Trump administration. And so it would not surprise me at all if they continue forward with this. It's not even just rare earth minerals. It's 50% of the entire country that we're pushing, this deal for. So that's kind of my overall reaction here to what happened. But it does drive me sort of insane. This insists, the Ukrainians need to apologize and Zelensky was out of line, et cetera, et cetera. We are so much to blame for the way this has all unfolded. And not just the Biden administration, by the way, where they do have a lot of blame on their shoulders, in particular for blocking those original negotiations that had a shot at securing some sort of a peace here early on. But Trump, in this dialogue, he brags about how he was shipping the javelins to Ukraine. He was part of this belligerent posture that precipitates this war. And Russia is responsible for their own actions. They should not have invaded. It was an illegal invasion. They have their own imperial project that they are engaged in. But let's not ignore the role that the U.S. has played in meddling in Ukrainian politics with a coup d'etat, with expansion of NATO, with continuing this belligerent posture that helps to create the conditions that precipitate this war. And to just erase all of that and pretend like none of that happened, and Trump himself is not to blame, and it's all Zelensky's fault, and he's the real aggressor here, and he needs to thank us, I think is so disgusting and utterly preposterous.
So Zelensky wants everything that you just outlined, which is the point you made about how American boots would essentially have to be on the ground
Yeah,
for security guarantee
that's right.
with the quote economic colonization. Zelensky wants that. That's the entire dust up over this deal. We played Chris Murphy just there. Chris Murphy, before Zelensky went into that meeting, was bragging about how Democratic senators had just met with him and encouraged him not to sign, what did he say, like a false security deal, something that Chris Murphy tweeted, because Zelensky doesn't believe that the quote economic colonization is enough. He thinks that the United States needs to have like an actual security guarantee. Otherwise, Putin will continue to, what's the word that